After the release of Led Zeppelin I, Led Zeppelin went over to the United States of America, and they went there to break America. As they were about to go out on stage, I think at the Whiskey A Go-Go, Peter Grant turned around to Robert Plant and said, "You need to make this work. If this doesn't work now, if this gig doesn't work, if you don't win them over, it's over." And Led Zeppelin did win them over. And very quickly, Zeppelin went to stratospheric superstardom. Now, what do we mean by this? Well, when I was a youngster, I had a book, and it was called the 100 biggest selling albums of the 1960s. So this went from 1960 to 1969. And you went through it, and there was Creedence Clearwater Revival and The Doors, and then obviously the Beatles, right? And you went all the way up through to it. And then when you got to the top 10 biggest selling albums in the whole of the 1960s, and in the upper elements of that top 10, there suddenly appeared Led Zeppelin I. In other words, their debut album had come out and become one of the biggest selling albums of the 1960s. I believe Led Zeppelin II was in there as well, because I believe that came out late 69, but I might be wrong, but I feel it did. 2 albums out. Now, what we're going to be looking at here, track by track, is Led Zeppelin II. Led Zeppelin I was made under very specific circumstances. The band have just formed. They've gone out and done a little tour of Scandinavia. They come back. Jimmy Page goes to the studio himself and pays Olympic to go in there, and they make an album, all in the same place. And Led Zeppelin I has a certain sound which goes through the whole album. There's a certain homogeneity to this. But this album was made when Zeppelin were conquering America. Led Zeppelin II is the product of many, many different recording studios. Many sessions were laid down in one studio and then taken somewhere else to be mixed whilst the band were playing and performing. Now, Led Zeppelin as an entity, there is something very special about them, as we know. The magic that is heard on the first album is coalescing on Led Zeppelin II. The bombast and the heaviness, which was so novel at the time, has basically sunk in. So Led Zeppelin II has a lot more heavy metal bombast on it than Led Zeppelin I. Led Zeppelin I has a tendency towards a sort of 60s pop sound. You know, maybe the band were hedging their bets a little bit. And we still get that on this album a little bit on one track at least. But what we have here is there is definitely a lot more riffage. But I also feel that there is a lot more, the colours and the things that Zepp do on Led Zeppelin, the approaches, the arrangements, everything's bust out even more. All right? And so if we go track by track, obviously this opens up with Whole Lot of Love. Now, Whole Lot of Love is probably in the top 3 Zepp's tunes of all time. Maybe the top 4. It's in that 4, which would be Whole Lot of Love, Immigrant Song, Kashmir, and Stairway to Heaven. That would be, I think, the big 4. And those other 3, definitely Kashmir and Stairway to Heaven, they sit a little bit above Whole Lot of Love, probably in the cultural sphere. Whereas Whole Lot of Love at one point would have been above those. And in fact, it would have been above Kashmir as well at one point. So this opening track is like a signature piece for Led Zeppelin. It's a central thing for Led Zeppelin. Now, of course, it's cover version of a Willie Dixon tune, You Need Love. And it's pretty much been lifted. It's one of these tunes where Zeppelin at the time said they'd written it. And there is a sense of that, because the thing that makes Whole Lot of Love what it is are 2 elements. One is that riff. That is the riff, and that is theirs. And also the psychedelic, out there, free jazz, sort of voodoo middle section, right? is also Zepp. And those are the two signature bits. In terms of Robert's vocal delivery, I'm pretty sure he is taking his lead, not so much from the Willie Dixon version, but more from the Small Faces version that had come out a couple of years before. And if you listen to the way Steve Marriott is delivering it and the vocal, the way he changes the lyrics slightly, it's coming from there as well. So it owes as much to the Small Faces as it does to Willie Dixon. There seems to be an element here watching these videos that are very quick now to go, oh, Jimmy Page was a plagiarist, as though he wasn't talented and he was somehow just lifting stuff from other people and they owe it to these other people. I think this is absolutely wrong, and I'm going to stamp on it right now. What Jimmy Page did when he went into the studio with Led Zeppelin, he put a band together where the component parts was so important. The component parts of the Beatles and the Rolling Stones and bands like that were very, very important. But never before did you have the likes. Probably with Cream you had. So Cream were the ones who did this first. But with Led Zeppelin you have Robert Plant, Jimmy Page and John Bonham, and then coming in and weaving magic around it and ranging and pulling it together is the musical genius of John Paul Jones. And so these elements are virtuoso in terms of this burgeoning idea of the rock band. And Jimmy Page is the one who visualizes that. Now he's taken a little bit of that from Cream, he's taken a little bit of that from the Jeff Beck group, bit from Vanilla Fudge. You know, it's all coalescing, but so is everybody else at this point. And I feel Zeppelin basically go, this is how you do it, everybody. But the other thing with Page is he comes in with two other aspects. He hasn't got a guitar sound like Clapton, where he just sits and plays the guitar with that signature Les Paul sound and then later on that signature Strat sound. He is using the guitar like a synthesizer to create vast atmospheres and spaces within the music. His guitar's continually changing, and it's not just the tone and the way he plays, the techniques, although he's applying so many different techniques to the guitar. Yes, Page is a soloist like Ritchie Blackmore, but the solos he's delivering at this point in time are jaw-dropping. It's only because he's been so influential that people have then come and taken his approach and moved it further on. There's a whole realm of metal guitarists who weren't influenced by Hendrix. Eddie Van Halen's one of them. There are so many guitarists that took their influence from Jimmy Page from this period. And so, although his guitar solos to us can sound a little bit fumbly, some of the folk stuff he does, some of the drone, the experiment, this is all incredible. But it also is producing this band. It's the only band at this level. If we go through the Black Sabbaths and the Freeze, and we go through the sort of Fleetwood Macs, and we go through the, you know, Deep Purples, the only one that's got the producer built in is Led Zeppelin. And Page really is producing this. And along with engineers like Glyn Johns and Andy Johns and the people they're using, they're also forging a sound. When you go to these albums, that is the thing that's new. And it's so new that it's going to completely change the nature of popular music. Absolutely, in every single way. Right? This sound is coming out of the blues. At that time, the idea of who owned things back then is different to how we see it now, because people are still accommodating for the fact that these albums are going to sell and radio is going to be there, and there's going to be vast millions of pounds or dollars being generated by the people who wrote these tunes. I think Zeppelin, as time went on, they took that upon themselves, and I'm sure now if you look at it, those people are making money out of what Jimmy Page did, way beyond that they could have ever envisaged. The amount of blues type musicians or families of blues musicians who must be going, thank God for Jimmy Page, because we haven't had to work, right? So that is the one thing I want to say about Zeppelin. That's why they're so important, because I'll be critical of Zeppelin. I'll try and be critical. But you know, there seems to be a real backlash here. So a whole lot of love. Incredible riff. It's heavy. Everything about it is incredible. And for a signature piece, for one of the most classic rock songs, to contain inside it this avant-garde noise section, which has been created to absolutely express sexual desire. Right, that's what we've got on here in this middle section. And I can't think of any other band that this is so way out. This is 69. Who else? Pink Floyd are doing like electronic experiments, but there's no sex in what Pink Floyd does, is there? This is unlike anything else. And the moment when it breaks out and you get that bam, 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 but it kicks back in. That bit there, that is worth the price of admission. When you get to that point, you go, okay, Zeppelin, job done. That's the way you do it. And so Whole Lot of Love I think it's incredible. It's one of those tunes that I've heard it probably 300, 400 times. If I put it on now, I would love every little bit. And from here, we go from the bone-crunching heaviness of Whole Lot of Love into a song. Now, I have criticised Led Zeppelin saying they never wrote songs, right? Now, what I mean by that, they never wrote sing-along songs. Elton John or Queen, they're the sort of bands that write sing-along songs. You know, that sing-along song is a bit, you've got a bit that goes, na, 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 mama, na, na, everybody, na, 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 hey, or we are the champions, my friends. Everybody, you know, and that is what the difference is between those types of pop bands, however heavy they get, and Led Zeppelin. Led Zeppelin don't do that. They're trading on something that's really, in terms of Robert's songwriting, is coming out of those San Francisco sort of hippie bands like Love and The Doors and Moby Grape and The Byrds and a whole host of sort of quite hippie-ish, unheavy bands, quite fey. Those, and so on this album, you get that change. You had it on the first album as well. But What Is and What Should Never Be is such a pretty, interesting, idiosyncratic song. And it does what the second track on Led Zeppelin 1 does, is that you get that, another type of heavy metal, where it goes, in the sky, I know when the wind won't blow, they really shouldn't go. All that is really heavy, then it drops down, you know, and you're still hearing something that slowly gets lost in Zeppelin's catalogue, which is the backing vocals and the popness. And you will be mine by taking a title again. Boom. Brilliant. And then you've got Page's understanding of the studio and understanding that this change that Zepp has made with that ba-dam, 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 ba-dam. This is genius. This is just pure genius, especially at that time. And the gong going off, incredible. Love it. Then we followed up. Now, I've got to say, this is interesting. Whole Lot of Love. Again, on the first video I did, I'm not going to keep doing this, but it is quite comic to go, what's this album about? And then look at what Robert's saying in the lyrics. So we've opened up and he goes, I need some love, right? I need some love. I don't think it's love he's after, but that's what he's saying. And then we go to this second song, which is about forbidden love, which is mirrored in Robert's real life at the time, right? So he is singing about someone that he can't have, right? Okay. Then we go to tune number 3, which is the Lemon Song. And the Lemon Song is an adaptation of a Howlin' Wolf tune, I believe, right? Killing Floor and a few other things as well. But the most important thing here is, unlike the blues that we heard on the first album with that sort of slow 6/8 of You Shook Me All Like Down. You shook me 1, 3, 5, 6, 7, 1, 2, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's like a proper 6/8 slow swing from a blues. The Lemon Song is just so funky, right? And the other thing you'll notice on this album is, as time goes on with Zeppelin, John Paul Jones's bass playing is reduced to so minimal. By the time you get to Physical Graffiti, he's often just playing one note. And this actually will throw you off thinking about how ridiculous he is on bass. But when you listen to the bass playing on this album, it's all over the place on all the tracks. And on this, he just starts to showcase. And when it drops down and Robert Plant steps to the mic and starts talking about the lemon juice, which is running down his leg, creating one of the rudest sections in rock history, but also one of the most culturally significant. When I was playing with the Robert, I was very familiar with a fanzine. It was called Lemon Song, and it was all about Robert Plant, and it all centers around this section. And when they drop down, Bonham is so funky, and John Paul Jones is just all over the place. It's like this is the best bass playing at that point in time in any of these rock bands. Maybe Andy Frazier from Free, similar sound. But, you know, the rest of them, this is just unbelievable. So these first three tracks for me are all 10 out of 10. They really are. They are all 10 out of 10. And then it finishes up with side one. Side one finishes up with Thank You, which has gone on to become almost like a classic now. It wasn't so talked about in the old days, but now, you know, Chris Cornell covered it, various other people have covered it over the years. And it's one of those few songs where it might not have like one of those vocals you can sing along to, but it has one of those vocal lyrics that could be, if Led Zeppelin let people do it, you could almost use this on adverts, right? Because it's a very simple message of thanking the one that you love. And so Robert has basically gone, I need some love. I want it from this person, but I can't have it. This is what it's like when I have it. And this is the thank you to the person that I love that I get it from. It's all like, that's the side one. And of course, Thank You is, it's just wonderful. I would say that side one of Led Zepp 2 is all 10 out of 10. I would say that this is an upgrade from Led Zepp 1. This is so consistent and it's so way out and so strange. And the fact that they're in different studios, it seems to have a wider palette of, it's not even sound, it's a wider palette of feeling, I think, as though they're in completely different places, right? Then you turn it over onto side two. Now, I've got to say, when I was a kid, Led Zeppelin II, I just loved it. It's the first Led Zeppelin album I ever bought, right? And I never really noticed this at the time. So I do admit that for many people, they won't notice this, and I understand that. But for me, side two is considerably dropped down from side one. But the reason why it doesn't seem like that is because as soon as you put it on, you get Heartbreaker. Now, Heartbreaker is Led Zeppelin at their most bone-crushingly heavy metal. It's got the biggest, slowest sort of stoner riff ever. Down, 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 the bottom's doing that little shuffle in there that just makes it not like your average heavy metal band. And then, you know, Robert comes on and sings some pretty trite lyrics about some heartbreaker woman, you know, who's obviously walking around with their big leather boots on, you know, and swinging her tussly blonde hair and driving them all mad. You know, and it's one of those songs. I imagine that as time has gone on, Robert's looked back at that and gone, I'm not too sure about that one, you know, because it is very, very heavy metal. And there's a sophistication to Led Zeppelin, which always separated them away from all the Uriah Heeps or the Black Sabbath or the Judas Priests, in my mind at least. But here, they really are right down, like almost like a Motley Crue level with Heartbreaker. And in fact, this is the blueprint for it. The tune is pretty, the arrangement stuff that we're hearing on side one, we haven't got. It's just pretty much bass and guitar riffs together. It's lifted, of course, by the fact that they're thinking about the tour, aren't they, on this album? So everyone's getting a solo spot. You know, John Paul Jones has got his solo spot in the Lemon Song. Robert's got his solo spot in Whole Lot of Love, when he can get his delay vocals and go, love, yeah, he's got that bit. And Jimmy Page has given himself his bit where the band can stop, right? And he can step out and he can go, the thing is, the reason I'm singing these is how many guitar players can you do this with that you could with ease? You could just go in and sing it like this. It's like incredible. As a kid, when I first bought this album, which would have been about 1982, when I heard this guitar break, it seemed like the fastest guitaring I'd ever heard in my life. And when Steve Vai heard this in the early to mid 70s, you know, he thought the same thing. Although to our ears now, this is a little bit fumbly. I don't see it as being fumbly. I see it as being in the style of that sort of 1960s blues guitarist, very close to the Buddy Guys and a lot of guitarists that played with a lot of speed, but it was a lot more gritty and dirty, and I don't mind that. It is bloody fast. Page is fast. There's no two ways about it, but it doesn't have the legato smoothness that we associate with a modern metal guitar. So modern guitarists would sniff at that and go, was he making mistakes? But for me, this is groundbreaking, and this is the birth of all that shreddy metal thing, right? Because Hendrix never shredded, Beck never shredded. This is where it starts. Heartbreaker, in terms of cultural impact, in terms of Led Zeppelin tunes, it became a staple in the live set, with the reason being because it's pretty much just guitar, bass and drums, so it was something they could get away with, and it had Page's guitar breaking. There's a part of me that wants to give it a 10 out of 10, but there's another part of me that goes, if it's not a whole lot of love, it's not thank you, it's more crass than that, and I want to drop it down to an 8 out of 10. It just lacks the arrangement and sort of musical genius that we... But maybe that it has to be there. Maybe this is the bone-crushing moment that we need from Led Zeppelin at this point. This is followed up by Living, Loving, Maid. And this is the one that sounds a little bit like something cast off from Led Zeppelin 1. It's got those backing vocals. The lyrics, again, are quite trite. Same subject matter as Heartbreaker, really. It's catchy. Living, loving... Just a woman, that bit, this bit is right on the merry-go-round. I do like that, and I like it when it goes, you all know what the game is, but you better pay your money down. And you get all the bands like, whoa, they bum 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 bum, alimony, alimony, paying your bills. Brilliant lyric. I mean, you only put alimony in there because it sounds so good to sing it at that point. So this isn't a bad song. This is a 7 or 8 out of 10. Led Zeppelin and Robert Plant, they feel that this is one of the worst songs they ever did. It was like, I think, the B-side of whatever the single was off this, which I think was Whole Lot of Love. I quite like it. It's an 7 out of 10. Then we get another Led Zeppelin classic, Ramble On. And I think this one's genius. I really do. And this is one of those acoustic tunes that they've done this here. They did it on Led Zeppelin 1 with Babe, I'm Gonna Leave You. They've done this heavy, quiet verse on the acoustic guitar and then heavy chorus. I just love it. I love that sort of tippy-tappy sound that's in the background. It makes it makes it sound like it's electronic almost. Beautiful tune from Robert. And the chorus is one. This is a 10 out of 10, really, isn't it? It's Ramble On. It's a 10 out of 10. The only thing with this one is the lyrics, because not only is Robert singing about Lord of the Rings, which at the time probably seemed really cool, but it became the biggest prog cliche of all time, hasn't it? Now it's like you go, oh yeah, what should we write a song about? Why don't we write a song about Frodo's pony or something like that? You know, it sounds like a prog band just saying Frodo's pony. So the lyrics are Tolkien-esque, but if you actually listen to what Robert's saying in them, it's the most preposterous concept in the history of rock and roll. Basically, Robert is, I think he's a hobbit. He goes to Mordor, which is, you know, that's Sauron's lair. It's the land of Black Death, you know, full of orcs, because he found a girl so fair. Robert doesn't go there to drop any rings in Mount Doom. That's not why he goes there. He goes there because there's a bird in there. Now, what sort of woman are you going to find in Mordor, right? But when he gets there, She's stolen by somebody else. Who's she stolen by? Gollum. This song is about Robert Plant going to basically hell on earth to chat some bird up who is then decides to cop off with Gollum. Who is this woman? What has Gollum got that Robert Plant hasn't? I want to know. And next time I see Robert, if I ever see him again after this video, I'm going to say, oh, listen to that tune, Robert, and I don't understand it. Is it based upon some sort of fact? Who's Gollum? I mean, Gollum, he's not interested in birds, isn't he? The only birds he likes are the feathery sort, because he can catch them and eat them. In the darkest depths of Mordor, I saw a girl so fair. No, you didn't. Nobody sees that. And he got him. The evil one slipped. He's not the evil one. Sauron's the evil one. Gollum's just a nuisance. Slipped up and slipped away with her. He was nearly there. He's chatting her up, he's fighting off orcs. Sauron's big eye is looking around, and he's nearly there. Robert Plant's nearly there. It takes him a few seconds with Robert, and then Gollum just grabs her, he's off. I'm milking this because I find it so ridiculous. And this ruins Ramble On. It just brings it down, right? So you can put your fingers in, not listen to the lyrics, but it just brings it down. Then we get a low point for me, believe it or not. Moby Dick, what a waste of a good riff. If Robert will put a vocal on that, we would go, oh, this is one of the best Led Zeppelin tunes ever. Some nice breaks for Jimmy Page. But then, after it's done that, where do we go? We go into a drum solo. I love drum solos. I just love them. They're great because I'm a drummer. I like them. Not this one. The drums sound about this big, right? And he ends up going, brilliant, 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 brilliant. I just hate. I love Bonham. I love him. I don't like Moby Dick. Song remains the same. It's 10 minutes of bloody, and I don't think Bonham was a great soloist whatsoever. Except Bonzo's Montreux is great because he's grooving. This is the truth with Bonham. When he is grooving, he is like he is like Clyde Stubblefield playing cannons. That's what Bonham is, and I love it. His fills are incredible. His way of playing through a rock song is unbeatable. Bonham is the best. His solos are sort of really just Ginger Baker, Buddy Rich, and lacking the drama that those drummers have. I really slated him for this, but I am a drummer. I learnt these solos as a kid, and I don't know. I'm saying this because Moby Dick, it's all etched on your memory, isn't it? So when I think of Moby Dick, I just think it has become the rock solo. It represents everything that's brilliant and terrible at the same time. Now, when you go and check out Paranoid by Black Sabbath, which is made a few months later, they are basically copying Led Zeppelin in every shape or form. And there's a tune called Rat Salad on there, which again starts off with a killer Sabbath riff. And then Bill Ward comes in, and that drum solo is amazing. It's flying, it's exciting, it's climatic, and it's short. And I think that is the one. Of course, this is all birthed out of Toad, isn't it? By Cream. Does this require a video? Because how do I describe it? Could you put it in the comments of what would be the top 10 theatrical rock drum solos? See, that's what they are, right? I'm not interested in drum breaks or whatever. I would be interested in that moment where they've done the heavy, you have to have heavy riffage at the start or some sort of signature part where you go, oh, this is the drum solo. Like the Mule would be one, Toad would be one, Rat Salad would be one, and Moby Dick is one. I've got 4 there. And then as they go into the beginning of that, the band and then get their towels, take it over their shoulders, and they all walk off for a bit of an old backstage, you know. Well, we don't mind you having a 10-minute solo, John. You go and do it, you know, beat yourself up, you know. So that theatrics of that, you know, I would love to get into and actually see which the best one is. Now, some drummers used to bury it in one of their established songs as well, so that would take a bit of bit of research. And I know exactly what I think is number one, and it's not any of these. So Moby Dick, it's okay, you know. But, I'll just. Then we get something else I'm not too keen on with Led Zeppelin, which is like a sort of blues pastiche. And it sounds like they've slowed Robert's voice down to give him a more huskier down, which sounds like he's singing with something in his mouth, you know. And we get Bring It On Home, which is a blues cover by, I can't remember now, sorry about this. I wish I had that encyclopedic knowledge. You'll say in the comments. It's a proper blues tune. And it comes in, you know. We got all that going. I never thought, what's the point of this? You gotta scrub this. And then it goes into another bone crunching Led Zeppelin riff, and it's incredible. That's amazing. Then it goes. Oh, it's just just why did they just not cut that silly bit off at the beginning? Because it actually spoils it for me. How many of you agree with this? What I'm saying here. So what would make? So I would say there's nothing. There's nothing that's not good on side 2, right? But side 1 is 10. Heartbreaker is 8. I'm going to give Living Love and Maid 7. I'm going to give Moby Dick 6. So those first average at 7. And I'm going to give the other one 7. So this overall score for this, because I haven't got my bit of paper and I've just done it on the fly, which is probably better. The overall score, well, it's 17 divided by 2, which is 8.5. And now 8.5 is 0.5 better than Led Zeppelin 1. And I think that's about right. So this one album, I think, objectively, talking it through like this, and you've seen me do it, I would say we're on 8.5 for this album. And I would say that this is a little bit of an upgrade from Led Zeppelin 1, just a tiny amount. All brilliant, though. I love Led Zeppelin. You can tell I love them. I mean, I wasn't going to do this today. I was driving up, I had another thing in mind. And then I walked in and I'd forgotten I've cleared my studio because we've got a gig in here with the incredible Orc and Tim Barroness. So I'm putting that on and we're live streaming it. It'll probably have happened by the time you watch this. So I didn't have all my stuff set up. And so I thought, I'll just do that Led Zeppelin 2 one. So I've literally sat down. This is why I can't remember who did Bring It On Home. I'm just going to say Sonny Boy Williamson. It was old Stovepipe Davis, wasn't it, that did that one? Blind Willie Cruddy. It was somebody like that. I can't remember, sorry, I do apologise. Usually I have got an encyclopedic knowledge of music, but as I get older, it's like the encyclopedia. Some of the pages are a bit stuck together, as you know, but I've tried my best. But basically what you've seen today, I have just decided I'll just do the Led Zeppelin. I know the album inside out. So that is what you've seen. I love this band. The other thing I don't like about Led Zeppelin 2 is the cover. The adaptation of that photograph of the sort of German fighter pilots, the sort of Red Baron types, which they've swapped out and they've put on their faces, and then I thought it was Dolly Parton, but it's actually a photograph, I believe, of Glynis Johns. Now, Glynis Johns is one of my favourite actresses of all time. She died last year. She was 100 years old. She's famous for appearing in all sorts of incredible British films in the 1940s and 1950s. Glynis Johns is like my ideal woman. I love her so much. She is so incredible. And of course, the guy that was engineering this is Glyn Johns, and so they put that sort of deliberate mismatch up, which I enjoy very much. Now, the amount of airbrushing and stuff they did with that, why did they then stick it inside this horrible graphic that looks like a huge big sausage, shall we say, you know, rising up out of the brown? I mean, Zeppelin's covers are all amazing, right? Led Zeppelin 1's a bit of a cheat, but, you know, they didn't have much budget then, and, you know, but it was made by a legendary bloke, the bloke who did Dark Side of the Moon and all that lot. But this is the worst cover, isn't it? All the other covers are amazing, aren't they? They're all amazing. But this one's not. And so that's the other thing. And I think that covers often will sway your perception of an album. Anyway, I think I've got to the end of this video. That it was my part 2 of Led Zeppelin track by track. I hope you enjoyed it. Oh, it's going to be exciting on the next one because we're going to be doing Led Zepp 3. Now, I've got the special edition Led Zepp 3. I've got the special edition Led Zepp 3. I got the special edition of Coda. And I've got the special edition of Presence. And those 3 I'm really going to go to town on. And the reason is because those 3 albums... I mean, everyone knows that 3 is the groundbreaking one, but Presence and Coda, I think, are a little bit misrepresented. So we're going to hit it so you know where we're going with this. But we're going to be going track by track with this. So it's going to be very, very exciting. Oh, and I think I've got the special edition of Physical Graffiti, or at least the expanded triple album. So we'll also be going in a deep dive with that. But the next one on the list will be Led Zeppelin 3. And this is where they mix it up, isn't it? So if you're looking forward to that, put a like on it, subscribe so you know when it's coming out. It's quite simple. And I thank you for watching this video. If you want to support me, all the links are down below. My Patreon, my PayPal tip jar, the membership for this channel, and also links to my music on Bandcamp, my Substack, and also the Sunday Club, which is what we're preparing for now, which is a club where I'm trying to bring live music onto my channel so everyone in the world can sit down and watch live music through this portal, because that's the future of music. And if you want to join the future of music and maybe ensure some sort of place where bands of this ilk are going to actually perform to audiences that like this music, then please become a member of the Patreon for the Sunday Club. Thank you for watching. I'll see you on the next video.